Hi everyone, this is Sarah, the Catholic Homemaker. Today I want to talk about that thing that's been happening around our country, around the world for almost a year now. Well, really it's been over a year since it's been spreading. I'm not going to mention that word because I don't want this video to get censored, but I think you all can guess what I'm talking about. So first of all, if you're new to my channel, welcome, and please consider subscribing so we can continue to grow this community. Also hit the notification bell for all notifications so you'll know when I post, which is every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And also hit the thumbs up button if you like this video. So what inspired me to do this video was today in Mass, our priest mentioned to us that there was a local priest in our diocese who committed suicide just yesterday. And it was shocking to me, well, somewhat shocking. I didn't know who the priest was, but I have been hearing about priest suicides. It seems like a lot more recently. I heard about one a month or two ago I don't remember if it was within our diocese or within the state. But yeah, I've been hearing about more priest suicides within the past year. And it made me think about everything that's been going on around our country and the world. And okay, so if you all have looked into the truth about everything that's been happening on your own, outside of the mainstream media, you will have a different line of thinking than probably the rest of people do, like myself. And if you think about it, when the lockdowns first happened, it was all about slow the spread, just for 2 weeks, right? And then it became about preventing the number of deaths. And this is all good things, right? Like, this all sounds like it's a really good thing that we should do. And I definitely agree with reducing the number of deaths or preventing them. However, the problem with what has happened is that the media and other people have censored the truth and the truth about treatments, because the truth is that there are plenty of alternative medicine and Western medicine treatments that can treat this thing that has been going around. And unfortunately, that has been hidden from at least the majority of people who get the news. And it's just kind of spread about more from word of mouth and just from alternative news sources. One thing I have more experience with and I have confidence in, I've heard about homeopaths around the world treating this thing successfully, and our personal family homeopath has treated over 50 people personally successfully, and has even treated people who have lost their taste of sense and smell, and they have all gotten it back with the treatment. So that's very different than what you might have heard from everything. And so that brings me back to the priest suicide. So what about all the people who have been committing suicide, all the people with mental illness? Don't their lives matter too? And what about all the people who have needed critical surgeries or other medical treatments outside of this thing going around, and they have had those things delayed or just not done at all because of this thing going around? And some people have died because of that. Don't their lives matter as well? It's like, when this thing started happening, it's like the only people's lives that seem to matter is that the ones that were at risk for this thing going around. So it's like, we got to think about the whole picture. We got to think about everybody's lives. And I care about any person dying. So please don't say that I don't care. Of course I care. And I've already made the point that there are so many alternative medicine and Western medicine treatments out there that have successfully treated this thing, and just people aren't hearing about it, and people are even denying it because they're like, oh, well, you know, the news such and such, or this person said such and such. But there's so much bias going around, and it's like, even if I had doubts about something, I'd rather give something a chance than just completely write it off and not even try it. It's like, I'm thinking about an analogy, like if you had cancer and you were terminal, and the doctor said, well, this hasn't been proven to work, but if I were on my deathbed and I still wanted to live, I would want to try something, even if it hadn't been proven yet. So it's like, we don't have to wait for all these studies to come out to try something. You know, if the person is willing to try it, let them. I don't know. I'm sorry. Some of these things just get me very worked up. And this thing that has been going around has a 99.7 or higher percent survival rate overall. That's an extremely high survival rate. And it goes even higher than that with people who get early treatment. So early treatment is very key, whether you do Western or alternative treatment, like treat it very early. And the whole thing about this is that it has not, for the overall, logic has not been used to make decisions. It has been fear that has been driving everything. And with the priests, just hearing about the priest suicides, it took me back to about almost a year ago when everything started. And my own church, the Catholic Church, shut down masses before it was even mandatory. And they made masks mandatory. Not the church as a whole, the masks thing, but I think there's the majority of churches throughout the US and probably around the world have made it mandatory before it was even mandatory. And I mean, there was one church in our area that I knew of for sure that did not require them, and we were going there. But then once our town had an ordinance for it, they had to comply with that. And then the ordinance was lifted, and I thought things were going to change, but the bishop had made a decision to make it mandatory. And so that just saddened me. And, you know, I will always be Catholic. I will never change to anything else. God willing, I don't, want to make absolutes, but I know that the Catholic Church is the truth. And Jesus said, the gates of hell will not prevail against it. But right now, I just feel like there's so many spiritual attacks happening, and I've heard that the church has been infiltrated by just like as a whole from decades ago, just people trying to destroy the church from within. And so even in spite of all that, I still want to remain Catholic because I know it is the true church. And it just, upsets me, of course, to hear all these things about the mandates and, even happening within our own church, because I don't feel that they are right. And I just feel that we can't be afraid of each other. We have to still be human. And I've heard different stories about, sometimes people losing their humanity. I won't go to one extreme story now, but one personal story with me in our own neighborhood. For the most part, people have been wonderful in our neighborhood, and I have a wonderful situation that I am blessed with. When we moved to South Carolina last year, it seemed like it was very much God's will just everything that has blessed us in the past year. But I want to share this story in our neighborhood of this one family. There's this dad and his little daughter riding around on their bikes in the neighborhood, and my daughters and I take a walk every day and we see them. And, we say hi and we wave to them, but they never wave back. And every time they get even somewhat close to us, within maybe like a half or a quarter of a football field, I'm not joking, they start to cross the street from us. And I'm like, at first I didn't think anything of it, but it has been completely consistent every single time we see them. It's obviously the dad making that decision, not the little girl, but it's just kind of sad because my oldest is like, why isn't she saying hi to me? And it's like, I understand that people are scared, but it's like, you can still be friendly to people. And that's like another decision, another example of logic versus fear-based decisions. And that's clearly a fear-based decision, because if he were using logic, he would know that we wouldn't be able to pass the virus to him if we were just passing by him outside for a second, where he wouldn't even be necessarily right next to us on their bike. But yeah, it's happened to us several times where they just like cross over if they get within, I don't know, 18 feet of us, which, according to the CDC's own definition of how you get this thing, is you have to be within 6 feet of somebody for 15 minutes or more. So yeah, that definitely wouldn't happen by just passing us by on bikes outside. Outside is a very safe place to be. And here I've seen people wearing masks outside, and these things are not healthy to be wearing all the time. They're actually meant for in a surgical setting, which is a sterile environment, and people are constantly adjusting their masks and taking them on and off, slipping them down, probably sneezing in them, which is absolutely disgusting, and then just putting them back on. And it's a lot of people just have the cloth masks, just like myself. I try to avoid wearing it as much as possible. It's hard for me to breathe in them, and just from what I have read, they are not effective. Maybe not even effective at all. I don't know for sure, but there are only certain types of masks, like an N95 mask, which removes like what I think it's 95% of virus particles. But the majority of masks that people are wearing are not going to do that, and people aren't washing them regularly. If you guys can't tell, I feel very strongly about this, but anyway, I just wanted to share this video with you all because I think it's so important that we connect with each other and we check in with each other, even though this thing has been going around. We all still matter, and people have feelings and emotional needs, and we definitely need to check in on that. I know it was very difficult for me at the beginning of this whole thing because I wasn't really able to see anybody or say goodbye to anybody, because I don't think anybody was willing to, because they were scared. And like I said before, we were very blessed after that. We've met some really great people here and friends. But I just wanted to drive that point home, that we have to use logic when we make decisions and not use fear to drive everything. And don't lose our humanity either. Try to be good to one another. And the golden rule is very important, treat others as you want to be treated yourself. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and may God bless you and your families.